November 18, 1993, in the kitchen of their farmhouse in the Brown Hill Amish enclave, Ed Gingerich murdered his wife by knocking her unconscious and stomping out her brains.
Some reason, I think we can still save her. No, we cannot. I have seen Kay, and we cannot save her.
The Gingerich case is, historic in that Ed is the first old order Amish man ever to be tried for a criminal homicide. Pennsylvania State Police took Ed into custody while he walked along Sturgis Road, carrying one of his children and leading the other by the hand. He was covered in blood and had obviously been involved in some sort of brutal assault.
I was awe-stricken of the brutality of the murder itself. How someone who loved someone would knife and disembowel someone so close to their children, watching them. It was very, to this day, it affects me to this day, how gruesome it was.
Whenever someone is murdered in a small town or a rural community, local residents, struggle with that reality because this is really an abnormal occurrence. And people know the victim and they know the perpetrator, and it instills, fear and uncertainty in the community.
We were very surprised. The Amish community was always very nice to us, very personable, and of course we heard it on the news that night. It was very hard to take, the news. Such a horrific crime that took place in such a quiet and peaceful place.
And then they have to deal with the publicity, particularly in the Gingerich case. There was a lot of local publicity given the fact that Ed was Amish and his victim was Amish. So the old order Amish, who like to keep to themselves, like to keep the English at arm's length, were suddenly faced with TV reporters, newspaper reporters, and it was quite disruptive. And they really didn't know how to deal with it. And so, in general, the state police, who were investigating the case, really didn't get a lot of cooperation out of members of the Brown Hill community. Ed was convicted of involuntary manslaughter in March of 1994, a year after the crime. He served 4 years in a minimum security prison. Residents of the Brown Hill community did not want Ed back into the enclave because they were simply afraid of him.
After the trial, of course it was big news here in Erie. The trial was very much publicized daily of what happened. And of course he pleaded guilty by insanity, of course. And we thought that was the end of it, when I think he was actually released from the hospital, sent back up in that area where they lived. And I remember we all felt very uneasy. The whole community felt very uneasy.
Ed had no place to go, so he ended up residing with his attorney. And in January 2011, Ed went out to the barn owned by the attorney, and he hanged himself.
Later on, he took his own life, and again, that was also a news how it happened. And some people were happy, some people were sad, some people knew